Hey guys, welcome to Home Church Scotland. It's great to see you. It's a wonderfully sunny day and I'm just excited to see what God's going to do. Tonight, as always, we're going to start off with a time of worship together. We're going to be hearing from David Gillespie, who's one of the deacons in our church. David's also one of my closest friends. He was with me in my last ministry experience. That's where we met when I was youth pastor through at Bothwell. David was in the church and such a support, and it's one of the biggest blessings that he and his wife Diane and their son Daniel are with us here now at Home Church. He's an incredible guy. He's a very shy guy, so this is very much out of his comfort zone, doing a testimony tonight, but I so appreciate him and the entire team at Home Church, so I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say tonight. Remember, after this service we'll be meeting together on Zoom, so please do plan at the end of this service just to come over and spend some time with us. We'd love to see you, we'd love to chat with you, we'd love to get to know you a little bit better as well. Tonight's also the final part of my story, and next week hopefully we'll be moving on. We're going to be moving in to do some of the story, the testimony of Alex McKechnie, who's our youth pastor. Hoping that will be up and running by next week, but if it's not, we'll have a nice little bonus feature and it will start the week after that. We'll see how it pans out. Before we worship together, let me just pray. God, I thank you for being here tonight. I thank you for your love. I thank you for your goodness. I thank you for who you are, for all that you've done for us, God, and I thank you for this opportunity you've given me just to share my story over the past few weeks, Lord. And I just pray, God, it's not about me, it's all about you. I just pray that what you've done in my life, how you've blessed me, how you've led me through situations, God, I pray that that would have blessed people, have touched people, have challenged people. And God, I pray that you would even change people's lives through what is said tonight. Lord, be at the centre of tonight's service and speak to our hearts, we pray. Amen. All right, guys, let's worship together.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tune till I met you. I was breathing but not alive, and all my failures I tried to hide. It was my tune till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul, and and your freedom is all I know. The old made new, Jesus, when I met you, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, to your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy. Chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you called my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day.
You stood before creation, eternity in your hands. You spoke the earth into motion, my soul now to stand. You stood before my failure, carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulders, my soul now to stand. So what could I say? And what can I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I walk upon salvation, your spirit alive in me, this life to declare your promise, my soul now to stand. So what can I say? And what can I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you.
name's David. I'm married to Diane. We've got a wee boy called Daniel. I work as an engineer most of the time. I'm not working just now, but been put on furlough, but hopefully I'll soon be working as an engineer again. I love motorbikes and cars and bicycles. I enjoy working on them, riding them. I even like cleaning them. The red one's not actually mine, it belongs to somebody that most of you probably know quite well. It's just here for me to do a wee bit of work on it. And I go to Home Church Scotland. I decided I wanted to become a Christian when I was quite young. I had grown up going to church with my parents and my older brother and sister. My grandparents were all Christians, and all my aunts and all my uncles were all involved in churches as well. So it was a big part of all our lives from an early age. My mum had talked to me about what it meant to be a Christian and how she was a Christian, my dad was a Christian, and my brother and sister were Christians. And I asked her if I was a Christian, and she said that I maybe would be when I was older if I chose to be. And that was really all we talked about at that point. And I carried on going to the church, went to all the children's events, and then there was one night I had been at the midweek children's event that happened every week in the church that we went to, and there had been a former missionary that did a lot of work in Africa had been speaking, and he had been telling us, I can't remember exactly what stories he was telling us, but he was telling us stories about things that he had come across and things that had happened in Africa. And it seemed to strike some sort of a chord with me, because I remember going home and going back through things with my mum, and then we talked again about what it was to be a Christian, and I said, well, I want to be a Christian, if that's what it means to be a Christian. I want to decide that I recognise that God sent his son Jesus to die for me, and that I recognised that and appreciated that and wanted to follow him and his teaching that's brought to us through the Bible. So my mum said, well, you can be, you just say your prayer to God and tell him that, and you will be, and then you put in the effort, you read your Bible and you learn about it, and you try and live your life according to that. So that was what I did, and I was 6 at that point. I carried on going to the same church, and I was baptised in that church when I was 14. We then moved church shortly after that, when I was 16, and I actually went to my brother had already started going to a different church, so I went to the church that he was going to, and my mum and dad and my sister went to a different one. And I was in that church for 18 years, and last year me and Diane and Daniel decided we would move to Home Church. I've always been involved in the church in some way. I've always been generally in practical, behind the scenes kind of jobs. I've always enjoyed doing that. I've never really done the whole rebelling thing, so that maybe makes my story less exciting, I don't know. I've never really turned away. I've always kept going to church, and I've always kind of maintained my interest. I'm sure there's been plenty of times when my priorities haven't been what they should have been, and that's an ongoing issue that has to be kept in check. But that's really about it. That brings me to where I am. Well, I've not been enjoying lockdown. Few people will have been, I'm sure. I don't handle change very well, and it's obviously been a huge change to daily life, and I'm not working at the moment because I've been put in furlough, so that's added to the change. If I do keep my job, when I go back to it, it's going to be different. I'm probably not going to be working for the same customer. I'll probably be working in a different location with different people on a different product. I've been working in aerospace engineering, but that has taken a real pounding as a result of the situation. And I'll probably be working in a different area of engineering when and if I go back. Obviously the daily routine is completely different, church is completely different. It's been great the way it's been able to carry on, but it's obviously something else that's just different in life for me. But having my faith helps me through it, because that's something that I know won't ever change. It never has changed, and it's not going to change, and it can't change, and none of these other changes can affect that. So knowing that kind of helps me to get by. There's an old hymn that says, "Yesterday, today, forever, Jesus is the same." That kind of goes through my head quite a lot at the moment, and I'm very thankful that I've got this to help me when so many things are different. Well, I'm really looking forward to the lockdown being over. I'm looking forward to having the freedom to pursue my hobbies again. I'm looking forward to seeing family. Daniel's been missing all his grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of them. Church-wise, I'm really looking forward to getting back to getting up on a Sunday morning and coming to church. That's something I've done my whole life, and I'm looking forward to coming back to that. I'm looking forward to the new extensions to the building and all the facilities that's going to give, and how they can be used. And I hope and pray that there's continued growth in the church hereafter.
So it's good to come to you from my back garden today. I was going to go for a walk, but it's too hot, so I'm just enjoying sitting here in the garden, and thought I'd bring you this last part of my story, the last part of my testimony to you, straight from here. So we've been through a lot together at this stage. We spoke about obviously my journey through business and all the kind of failed attempts, if you like, at making it, and then talked a lot about how God pulled me out of some serious situations, how He restored some stuff, you know, incredible miracles really that God done in my life through that stuff. And last week, if I'm honest, I probably said a lot more than I thought I was going to say. I packed an awful lot into that. We spoke about my couple of years as a youth pastor, a blessed time but a very, very challenging time and a very, very difficult time in our life. We spoke about 2 incredible years that I could never have dreamed of, touring different parts of the world and playing rock concerts and living the dream. And it's crazy, you know, music's always been my biggest passion, other than the gospel, Jesus obviously, and it hadn't crossed my mind as I was chasing all the money that a music career was an option. And I wouldn't change the 2 years I had touring and the people we played to and the people we preached the gospel to. I wouldn't go back, I wouldn't change that for any amount of money in the world. It was an incredible 2 years. It probably ended sooner than I thought it would, and it probably ended sooner than I would have chosen it to end. But of course God's will is, you know, so much better than mine. God's understanding of what's good for us is so much better than mine. So as I said, I'd felt led by God to lay the band down and go full time into Rookie Rockstars. One of the things that God spoke to me through was my daughter. I came home from a tour one time and she just said, "Daddy, please don't go away ever again." And it had been something I'd been praying about. What do I do, and what does the future hold? And you know, God can speak through anybody, can't he? He spoke through my daughter and various other things, really. So at the time, we had been set at that particular time, the band stopped. I had been offered a job as a worship pastor for a church in Texas, and I'd accepted it, and we were going to be moving over to Texas to do that, and the whole family was going to go, and I'd brought someone in to run Rookies for me, and you know, I had all the plans set up in my own mind, but certain things the more we prayed into it and the more things unfolded, I just felt really clearly that God was saying we were to stay here, and I was to focus on Rookies, and we were to grow it. So I talked about the growth of that last week, and you know, within 2 years it was unbelievable, and the opportunities we had to work in different schools and help different kids and all that, it was absolutely fantastic. And I'll be honest with you, I was really content. I wasn't earning a lot of money. In fact, we sold our house to start Rookies because we couldn't keep the mortgage we had and work for almost no money. So we moved my wife and my 4 children into a tiny 3-bedroom flat in Cumbernauld, just so as I could get the charity up and running and started. But God blessed us through that. We took my wife's brother in, who had major alcohol issues, and he'd been in the streets for 20 years. We took him in. We had to move to a bigger house, but God was faithful to us, and somehow we were able to afford the house that we're in now. God just kept providing. But I remember at one point, not long after we'd moved into this bigger house, and I was just happy, you know, I was back in a house. I loved my job. I loved the impact we were having. And probably if you'd asked me, I would have said, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. I'm really happy. But one of the things I love about God is he knows the desires of our hearts. And he remembers the desires of our hearts. So my desire as a 14-year-old, as I shared before, was I wanted to become a pastor, and I wanted to be able to share the gospel with people, and I wanted to be the blessing to others that Eric had been to me. And it was just in my heart of hearts, ultimately, really most of my life probably, to be honest, I just wanted to serve God. I just wanted to work for God. So I remember after we had done youth ministry and how hard that had ended for us, to be honest, we really struggled to settle after that because we were so hurt and so broken. So we'd went along to a friend of mine's church for a year, kind of get involved there a wee bit, but he'd moved on as pastor, and so we kind of moved on as well, and we went up to Craig Albert for a while because it was a church next to our house, and we had some friends there, and that was a great time for us just to kind of recharge our batteries. Then there was a friend of mine that planted a church in the West End of Glasgow, and so we'd committed to go and help him for a year, so we went and get involved in this church plant for a year. It was great, but then it came a time I thought we need to kind of settle for our kids. So we went back to a church that we had been in before, and that was a really cool story of how God had restored some stuff and all of that, but I'm not going to go into it. But we went back to this church and we were happy. The kids were in a youth group. I was involved playing drums in a worship team again. I love music, I love worship. I was involved in a worship team, and not a thought really on anything else. I had a great job, I had a great family, I had a house again, I was loving church, and life was really good, and I was quite happy for it not to change. But God remembered, I believe, that young 14-year-old boy that had this desire to serve people and to preach the gospel. And I got a text message one day from someone from Riverside Church saying, "We're really needing some help with our worship. Would you be willing to come lead worship here? Like we would pay you for it." And I'd said to Ella, "Oh, that's a wee text message asking me about going and leading worship in that church." But we'd felt, obviously we had just moved church and the kids were settled. I thought, "Oh no, it's not for now. But one of the things was, so for the charity, so rookies had to do a few things like we needed a bigger hall for, and Riverside Church were really gracious to us. They gave us the use of their building for free for weeks at a time, several times. So we had a wee affinity with the church as an organisation. Didn't really know anybody there, but the church had been very kindly allowed us use of their building for the sake of rookies. And I love that, when a church is willing to serve the community without asking for anything back. There's always something significant in that for me. So we did have a wee love for that wee church because they'd been good to us. But we got this email, but because we just moved and we were involved in church and things, we just didn't feel, that at that time it was right. And then I get another, I think it was a text or an email from the same person, probably 6 months down the line, saying that actually the church, Riverside, were looking for a pastor. And they had a word from God that it was me. And I was like, nah, no, I don't see it. I don't think so. I kind of said to Ella about it, and she said, and your wives are always honest with you, aren't you? She said, don't be silly. No way you could be a pastor. You don't read the Bible enough. Challenged me very much in that. So we just left that, we never thought any more of it. And it wasn't till months later that I was driving to Dundee. I was involved in we'd invested with some people £20,000 to do a city centre outreach for one day in the city centre of Dundee, musical outreach. It was great, but I was driving up to meet with the pastors in Dundee with a guy called Julian Crispin who'd spoke at the church a few times. I'd never ever been at a service in Riverside before, but he had, and Riverside Church came up, and as we were talking about it, Julian talked about the search for a pastor, and he said to me, what that church really need is someone like you. And as soon as he said that, all of a sudden I felt this immense love in my heart for this church that I'd never even been in a Sunday service with. I didn't really know anybody there, bar one or two folk who'd been kind of sounding me out for things, and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how many people they had, I didn't know anything, but all of a sudden I had this incredible love for the church. And I knew at that point, if I'm honest with you, I just knew I was going to be the pastor of the church. But I thought, I don't know what to do, because here I've got this amazing wife sitting at home, and I've pulled her from pillar to post, one business to the next business, and she has just supported me without complaint. I had to sell her house after promising I'd never do business again. When God spoke to me about rookies, we sold our house and moved our whole family into a tiny flat, and my wife, she did not complain once. And I thought, how can I go back to my darling wife who's been so supportive and so amazing, and once again say, I want to embark on a new adventure, and I feel we need to do this thing, when we had been so badly hurt in ministry before, knowing how the toll that took on her, and basically saying, I really feel I want to put us back into that situation. I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't know what to do. So I chickened out and I didn't bring it up. I just left it. And I don't really know how long I was willing to leave it for. There was just no way I was going home and saying to my wife, I want to take you through another difficult situation, because I knew it was going to be difficult, because ministry is anything you do for God, guys. Satan's after you. I'd seen it time and time again. You have to be so strong to be in ministry. Obviously your strength comes from God, right, but attacks come as well, so I knew it was going to be tough. So I'd made this decision, there's no way I can bring it up. But the amazing thing about God is, like, if he calls you to something, if we as Christians say, and we should say, God, your will be done in my life and not mine, if that's our standpoint as Christians, then we have to believe and trust that God is going to have his way. So that Sunday, just the Sunday after that, myself and my wife had managed to go out for lunch together, because the kids had went either with youth or Maya had been taken to a friend's house at church, and we're just sitting there over the dinner table, and Ella said to me, how are you? You can tell we never seen each other much, eh? How are you? I said, I'm great. And she said, how are you with church? I said, loving church, loving life, love my job, everything's great. And she said, so has God not said something to you about that church in Kirkintilloch? And my jaw nearly hit the table, you know. I just couldn't believe it. I said, well, in truth, I believe I'm supposed to be the pastor there. And she said that, yeah, God said the same thing to me. And I was just gobsmacked, you know. Here was me too scared to have the faith to say what God had placed in my heart, so God had went ahead and placed it on my wife's heart as well. And so obviously, like, we were praying about it, and then I didn't know what the situation was, so I'd phoned to find out where the church were at, and someone else had preached for the job, and I thought, well, that's that then. I don't understand that. I've obviously heard from God wrong. But anyway, my name had got bandied about, and eventually I spoke to this very nice English chap called Ernest Baton, and we met for a coffee, I think, and then I had one official interview, and then I had a second official interview, and then I had to come and preach for the church, and then I got interviewed off the church. And anyway, you know, it's a bit of a process getting involved in ministry and getting a job at a church. It's a bit of a process, but God led me to it, and I got appointed as the pastor at Riverside. And you know the story a lot because we've been talking about it with the building fund. The first service there was 20 odd people, and the church was struggling. You know, there wasn't a lot of people coming out on Sundays, but I remember my first sermon at the church was on what the Bible said church was, you know, about valuing others is more important than yourself, their opinions above your own, all that sort of stuff. I said to the church, if we get this stuff right, if we can get unity in our church right, if we can cut out any bickering, any dissent, any disunity, any of that stuff, then this church can turn around in 1 year. And honestly, me and Ella prayed so hard. That was our prayer. God, please, could you help us turn this church in 1 year? I didn't want it to be a 5-year job. I didn't want it to be a 10-year job. I wanted to, for my own faith, for the faith of the people in the church, but to be honest with you, also for faith of other people in other churches who were struggling. I wanted just to show how, with God moving and with sticking to the Bible, you could change a church and turn a church in 1 year. And God was so faithful to that. And within a year, we were getting over 100 people at some services. We were baptising people. People were getting saved regularly. It's just been the most incredible journey because God's at the centre of it and because God was leading it. And when God calls you to do something, it's really important you know this as well. When God calls you to do something, He puts everything in place that's needed for you to do that. Obviously, I started off as a part-time pastor, 15 hours a week, and as the church grew, it was very, very evident that I had to go full-time. And so I had to obviously take a big step back from a business, from Rookies, which was a big thing to do because I'd built that up from scratch. Nobody knew it like I did, and what if I take a step back and it falls? But honestly, when God calls you to do something, you just have to trust Him. You have to serve Him, you have to do it to the best of your ability, and He sorts everything else out. Obviously right now the whole world's in catastrophe and Rookies is in, you know, a difficult situation. But from the day that I stepped down from Rookies, didn't step back from Rookies and drastically cut my hours down, and had people in charge and delegating and moving about, the turnover of Rookies actually grew. There was more money in the bank after I stepped back than there ever was before when I was in it, because I just believe God was blessing it, and God was honouring the fact that I was willing to give up this baby of mine. I was willing to give up this thing of mine that meant so much to me in order to serve Him. And so He just took total control of it. So I don't know about you guys, I don't know kind of what you feel called to, but if we're a Christian, we should really be seeking God for, well, you know, what have you got in store for my life? What is it, God, that you want me to do? And whatever that is, whatever God's calling you to do, I can assure you 100% categorically that He's got it all figured out. He knows how the finances are going to work out. He knows how your time's going to work out. He knows how He's going to protect your family and it all. Like, He knows all of that. I am in awe today when I look back at it's not even been 2 years, and I see where our church is from where it was. I even see where Rookies is from where it was. And you just think, wow. And it's all, it's so, it's nothing to do with me, do you know what I mean? I always said your vision should be so big for your church, for your ministry. Your vision should be so big that you can't possibly do it on your own. There's no way that one wee non-educated guy from the East End of Glasgow could have built a business up to $500,000 turnover a year, going part-time at the end, very part-time. There's no way that a wee non-educated guy for East End of Glasgow could take a church with 25 people in it and take it to where it is now, rapidly growing towards 200, starting a building project, expanding our territory, just incredible stuff. It wasn't me. It's impossible that it was me. It's all God. The only part I had to play in all of it, and this is the thing that I wish I'd learned before, because I'd spent so many years struggling and trying to build something and striving and knocking my pan in for nothing. When in the end, all I had to do to find success, all I had to do for things to start working out for me was to obey God. That's all I did. Every time I obeyed God, it's worked out. He told a 17-year-old kid to get engaged to a girl from Poland that he hardly knew. He told an 18-year-old kid to marry that girl from Poland, and I didn't argue, I obeyed him. And we've nearly been married 20 years, and we've got wonderful children. And I'm so blessed. I've got an incredible marriage, and it's nothing to do with me. It was just obedience to God. He told me to lay down the band which I loved and to start Rookies. I obeyed him, and he has then done incredible things through my obedience. I obeyed him to go to the church, even although I was unqualified, even although, as Ella said, I didn't read the Bible enough, I wasn't a good enough Christian, I had no experience in church leadership, I'd never even been an elder before. How does a wee guy like that even start to think about leading a church? But I believe God called me to do it, so I obeyed him. And even that, he transformed my life. I didn't even have to think and try about reading the Bible more. It just became part of my life, and it was new revelations, and it was making sense to me more. It was meaning more to me, and I believe and I pray that God gives me an ability to preach that to other people in a way that's understandable to them. And just God has done incredible, amazing things, and the only thing I had to do was to be obedient. So I don't know about you guys if you're watching tonight and there's different struggles going on, and you don't know how you're going to get from here to where you're supposed to be. You don't know how you're going to get from here to where God's called you to be. My only encouragement to you, if you're a Christian watching this today, is just obey God. Just be obedient. The same God that took 5 loaves and 2 fishes and multiplied them to feed 5,000 men plus women and children, that same God is at work in our nation and in our lives today, and he can take whatever we give him and multiply it in the same way. If you give him your life, if you give him what you have, he will take that, he will multiply it, and he will do simply incredible things in your life, things that you would just simply not believe. I'm so thankful that God doesn't call qualified people, because I ain't qualified at nothing. He calls unqualified people, and he qualifies them, and his qualification is far more important to me than any bit of paper or anything else I could ever have got. I used to think I was a failure because I didn't have a degree. I used to think I was a failure because I didn't have anything. I used to think I was a failure for all sorts of reasons. But in truth, in reality, looking back, the only thing that I failed in was not obeying God. Because the minute I started obeying God, things just happened. Things just worked. Things just started to happen. The only success you need in life is to obey God, to follow his plan for your life, to follow his word over your life. And honestly, man, just sit back and watch. Just sit back and enjoy. I mean, I'm buzzing most of the time. I sit back and watch what God is doing in my life, what he's doing. I've baptised 3 of my 4 children in the last year. You know, even that. Sorry if I keep talking here, right? But when we knew God had called us to move here, we sat down with the children, and I said to them, look, we're going to be moving. We believe God's told us to move to this new church. And the first question they asked, of course, their kids, is there any youth there? Because there was a strong youth in the previous church. I said, look, there is no youth, but we believe God's called us to go there. So we believe that He's going to bring a youth, and we believe it's going to be better for us there than anything we've experienced before. Our kids, are wonderful, such a support. Okay, Dad, trust you, let's do it. And we moved to the church. And of course it happens, doesn't it, that within a year, the youth has grown massively to a far bigger, to be honest, than the youth that they were in before. And such good people, such good youth. And then when Colin got baptised, he's saying one of the main reasons that he's got a very strong faith, Colin, but one of the things that's led him to that place of getting baptised was that we said as parents that God had led us to this church and that this was what God was going to do, and he seen happening before his eyes what we said God was going to do. So it makes sense to him, it confirms everything to him, and so he's going to go ahead and get baptised. And so often when we're called to do something, when we're called to go somewhere, when we're called to give something up, even when we're called to move church, we can use like other people and our children as a stumbling block, as an excuse not to do it because of them. But again, our only responsibility, our only response is to obey God and to trust Him. He knows our children more than we do. He loves them more than we do. He desires their salvation more than we do. Our job as parents, our job as Christians, our job as individuals is to trust God, and He will sort everything else out. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all the other things will be added unto you. Everything else, God has got all of it sorted if we would just first seek His kingdom. So wherever you're at tonight, guys, I appreciate that you've been tuning in and listening to my story over the last 4 or 5 weeks. I trust and pray that it's blessed some people. I hope it's impacted some people. I hope it's challenged some people. And maybe there's a final challenge tonight. Maybe God's calling you to do something. Maybe God's calling you to go somewhere. Maybe God's calling you into something that you think is bigger than you. Do you know what? It might be bigger than you, but God's bigger than it. I just want to encourage you to go for it. Maybe God's calling you to move somewhere and you're concerned about your family or about your job or your situation. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all the other things will be added. God has got it sorted. If He's called you to something, He has got it sorted. Your job is to trust, to obey, and to follow. And if you do that, God will take your life and He will multiply it, and He will do unbelievable and incredible things. He will do far more than you could ever possibly think or even imagine or comprehend. God is so big. He's so huge. There is nothing that can compare to Him. No one can compare to Him. And that same God that was powerful enough to create everything you see around about you, to create the heavens, to create the earth, He cares enough about your little life to do wonders in it and to change it. So if you're a Christian tonight, I would ask you to follow Him. If you're not a Christian tonight, if you're watching this and you're just hearing some guy talk about the amazing things that God's done in his life, how He's taken a wee failure from the East End of Glasgow and using him to do some pretty cool stuff, God can do that with your life as well. He can change your life. If you want to find out about Jesus today, if you want to give your life to Him today, if you want to become a Christian today, I want you to reach out to me, and I'll talk to you on the phone. I'll talk to you in a video call. We'll just pray. I would love to introduce you to Jesus. Let me just pray. God, I thank You for this opportunity today just to share the final part of the story up to this point with the people watching. God, I want to thank You, even for the encouragement it's been to me over the last 5 weeks to just be remembering parts of my life and remembering how You've moved and the incredible works that You've done. It's so easy for us to forget sometimes how much You've done in our lives and how much You've blessed our lives. And I've said this, but God, it's the fact that You've done so much before that we can have hope for our future. So God, I thank You for my past, I thank You for my future, and God, I just pray that something I've had to say tonight, something I've had to say over the past few weeks have have touched some lives, have blessed some lives, have maybe challenged some folk, have maybe even prodded folk in a particular direction. God, I pray for anyone who's watching tonight who has got something in their heart, has got a ministry in their heart that they have to move forward in. And Lord, I just pray that you would encourage them, that you would equip them, and that God, you would lead them to that place of obedience, that they would move into your plan for their life, and they would see everything unfold and everything be provided for through the glorious riches that we have in Christ Jesus. God, if anyone today is watching and they don't know you, pray that even now in their hearts they would know that that needs to change. They would know that something's got to give, and now is the time to start following you. Now is the time to stop fighting. Now is the time to stop searching and just give their life to you. Amen. You need to excuse that wasp flying about my head there, guys, as I'm praying. But guys, if you want to accept Jesus today, if you want some prayer about something, if you've been challenged in something, would you just send me a message? You get a hold of me in the Facebook, in the Home Church Scotland page on Facebook, or you can send me a message, dave@homechurch.scot. We're also going to be meeting together on Zoom right now. We have a church hangout every Tuesday night. Different numbers of people come on. Even if you've never been at an online service before, if you've never been at Home Church before and you want to come and hang out with us tonight, you're so welcome to do that. The details for that are on screen now, and they'll remain on screen for the remainder of the service tonight. Just head over to Zoom, type in that code, and you can just be chatting with some people from the church. There's a function on there, of course, to send a private message to me as you're on there, and if you want prayer, you could even type it on there, and we'll arrange to have that prayer time with you. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and I just pray that God's will would be done in each and every one of your lives moving forward. I'll see you guys in Zoom, and have a blessed night, guys.
Is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was born.